Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Inessa and I am an indie author and I publish under the pen name A.N. Sage. I share things on this channel about my writing journey, everything that I've learned, some tips and tricks, and just different things that I've picked up in the world of writing and just being a creative entrepreneur in my many years of doing so. So if that sounds like something that you would like to be a part of and the community you'd like to be a part of, then stick around for this video and make sure that you subscribe to get notifications of future videos. I have a slightly shorter video for you guys today. I really wanted to share with you how I set up my Scrivener. So if you're not aware, I am in the middle of writing the final book in my Shadow Her series. This will be book number 8, 9 if you count the extra long novella that it also has. And in general, this will be my 16th book to write to date. So I have been using Scrivener for quite some time. I have used it for almost all of my manuscripts except my first series, the Etherborn Saga, when I was first started out in the world of like YA and a fantasy. But for the most part, Scrivener is where my writing lives, where my drafts live. And even when I use my NeoSmart, which is a typing device that is unconnected to anything, I still later import all of that into Scrivener so I can organize what I've written. So it's a really great tool. I do have a video on it, another video that I will link on it, but for the most part, Scrivener is a writing platform or tool. It's a system that you download, you use it on your computer, and in it you can write and work on your drafts and organize them and all of that fun stuff. So and when you're done with it, my favorite part of Scrivener is that you can compile everything into a proper manuscript format. And while the compile section does take a bit of time and playing around with, it is amazing once you get the hang of it. So without further ado, I'm going to walk you through kind of how I set up my Scrivener and what works best for me. So when you first go into Scrivener, if you open a new project, let's say you open a new project and you want to open a fiction novel, for example, we'll just keep it as untitled because I'm just doing this as a just a regular sample right now. Let's go to create. When this first opens, it's not going to look like this the way that I have it now. As far as appearances go, it will likely look like a default theme. Give it a second. So it will look like this. This will be a default theme. It will be light or dark or whatever you had it set up as. You will have all of these sections here to kind of guide you through. So you'll have like your manuscript folder, then the chapter folder, a scene folder. There'll be a place to add your characters, places, all the front matter information here, notes, research, and all this other stuff. This is what a new document looks like. Now, I have created a different theme for myself because I don't like the way this looks, and this is very distracting to me. When something is not pleasant to my eye, I do not want to work with it. So I've created my own theme. The easiest way to create a theme for your Scrivener is when you go onto the Scrivener tab, at the tab, you go into Preferences and you go under Appearance. There are all of these different things that you'll be able to change. So for example, under snapshots, like you can change your color of your text background. You can add images, different text colors and preferences. So as you go through your appearance, like in all of these binder options, the binder is this part here, so you can change the fonts, the colors of there. You can change the composition mode as well. There's all of these different areas that, like here, we change like a screen background, different backgrounds for everything. So lots of changes that you can make. And when you do create whatever you want to create, so you've created something that you're happy with as far as visuals go, if you click under this Manage area, right here, you can save these preferences as a preset, right? Either a preset that you will later share with other computers. Or what you can also do is save it as a theme. So I've just saved it as a theme. I've also saved it as a preset that I have it just in case my computer dies or I have to switch stuff around. So you can save them as both. So once you save it as a theme, when you open up a blank Scrivener document, when you go into the Scrivener section again and you go under theme, your theme will be in here. So you'll be able to choose it. So for me, I just named it A.N. Sage because that's my writing pen name. And I kind of just click on that when I start writing. So now for the organizing part. So as you know, the Scrivener is a wonderful tool for organizing your chapters, your scenes. It's easy to move things around, so you can move everything from spot to spot. When you saw at the beginning, there's a whole bunch of stuff that opens. For the most part, I only use the manuscript section, the notes section, sometimes the research section, and not very often will I use things like the character, the manuscript help that was there, places. I have a separate like binder and notebook, and a separate area where I kind of plan all of that and plot all of it. So I don't really need it in here. It's just distracting really for the most part. But under my manuscript section, I will always have a main. And just so you know, if you don't want any spoilers, well, you won't see them because it's just really the beginning. But this is my manuscript for The Things the River Hides. So just avert your eyes if you don't want to see it. But under my manuscript section, I have a folder that's called just main usually. And that just means my main manuscript. And then each one of my chapters will be here. Sometimes what I will do is I will group some of these together and I will create a folder for them, and I will label that folder Act 1, Act 2A, Act 2B, Act 3. So a lot of times I will do that, but in the end, the most important part is that I have all my chapters. So for this book in particular, I did not have it broken down by acts. What I did have instead was just all of these different chapters. So I have something called an insert, which is just, there's a few of them throughout the book. They're just sections of prose that goes in between some of the chapters from a different POV. But my chapters are set up as this. So you will have chapter 1, and then my section type would be a chapter. And then under notes, the only thing I usually keep under notes are just my editing notes. So it's called editing, and I will literally, as I go through, make notes for myself. So when I get to the editing portion of the writing part, then I can actually use this to use it as a guide. So when I get to the editing part, then I can actually use this as a guide for how I'm going to edit each one of these chapters. So that's what I have for the most part. Now, in these sections here, in these notes and synopsis sections, what I have for myself are notes on what is going to be happening. So a little point form for some of the beats I'm hitting. So I have the theme stated here. In this one, it's an opening image and with notes, and I have notes for every single chapter except the insert on what happens in that particular chapter, what beats are happening in that chapter, and what I'm going to be writing about. Now, when I first set up this file, none of this will be here, obviously, because I still have to write it. But what I will have is all of this synopsis section filled out for every single one of the chapters. And I use them as a guide for my drafting. Now, for books that have multiple POVs, let's see here. So Shadowhurst, for example, if I go into Shadowhurst, let's try Shadowhurst 8. I think that's the most recent one that I was working on. Yeah, so here we go. This is a good example too. Let me just enlarge this. So this is the blank version of it. I won't show you the first few acts here just because I've already started working on it. But as you can see over here, I've broken it down into these acts. So I have Act 1, Act 2 as a folder and all the chapters that will be in Act 2, Act 3, and then we'll just go on from there. And again, everything is labeled. Please do not read this. Like it's giving stuff away. Do not read it. But this is the B story. So let's stick to this one. What you will also see in this section here are these colors. And what these colors are my POV colors. So I know at a glance, I assigned colors to each one of the POVs. There's 4 in this book. And so I know at a glance whose chapter it is. And then where you would find that is under label type, you have my 4 POVs. Now, if you go to edit this, you can make your own colors. The way that I did it was I just added one. So I'll add another one. We'll call it test. And then it would be good if I could spell test, but we'll call it test. And then if you double click on this color one, you can choose whatever color you want for it. So that's how you set these up. And I just set up my 4 ones. And that way I am set to go and I know exactly who is talking in this particular, or like whose story is taking place in that particular chapter. And this section, what I have here under my notes, is questions. So you'll see that I have set up a section where I already have some questions that I need for myself. And I'll be doing this for the research part of like the editing part of the final stage. So that's what I have set up here. And that's for the most part how I have my manuscripts set up. So if you click on the top of the manuscripts, you'll see how you act. And once you have your actual written things in here, like you can see here, all the synopsis is filled out. This is your view of corkboard, right? So your corkboard view is really good in Scrivener. You can see it kind of everything in a glance. You can also print all of that out, and it will have your POVs already on it. So that is, for the most part, my Scrivener setup as it is. Let me just flip back to this one again. So that's kind of how I use it and how I set it up. So if you're new to Scrivener, I would recommend to the way, maybe don't stick to what I just showed for Shadowhurst, but take a look at this one here where everything is just chapters in a row to make it easier for yourself until you get the hang of Scrivener. And for the compile section, so when you go to File, Compile, and that's when you're done with your manuscript and you need to export it. You can export it to any of these different formats. For the most part, you're probably going to be exporting it to Word doc so that your editor can go through it, or at least I do. And then, or if you're submitting to agents and such, so you would export it to a Word doc, and it will actually export it to a proper manuscript format, which is absolutely amazing. There are some tweaks you might have to go through. And you have to double check that all of your things, like for example, this insert here, I had to relabel it as a section instead of a chapter, because otherwise when I exported it as a manuscript, as a Word manuscript, it would add chapter headings to the insert. And that is not what I needed. I needed it to be just on its own without any treatment. So just make sure that the right labels are on the right sections, and you can either do that in that formatting section, or you can do it right here under section type. So all in all, I am a huge fan of Scrivener. Like I said, I've been using it for a long time. I highly recommend it for anyone who is an author, who's starting out as an author, because I think it's a tool that you really enjoy. I used to use Google Docs before, and now that I've switched over to Scrivener, I don't know how I ever used Google Docs, to be honest with you. Now, it doesn't have a cloud capability, so it's not like you can continue where you left off like you would with Google Docs. But it's a huge step up from Word if that's what you're using. But and also it has all these different ways of working that are just more intuitive. And like I said, the compile section is absolutely amazing. And I do like that you can change the themes and customize it, because I'm the kind of person that does get distracted very easily with other things on the screen. So to have like a theme that is developed for me works really well. And you can always change this theme. Like this image could be some sort of specific theme to the book. Like if you're writing dark academia, you could have like a dark academia type of image behind it and all the colors to match. So I think it's a great tool. I definitely recommend it. I think it's definitely worth spending the money. It does cost money. It's not free, but I do think it's worth it if you're going to be writing fairly regularly. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little walkthrough. Like I said, it's a shorter video this week, but I think it's a fun one to take a look at how other authors set up their writing platforms and their areas where they work. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little behind the scenes of my little writing setup. And with that, I hope you stay magical, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.